Everyone, this is my first video which is related to TYBA class, and in this first video we are going to start S4, which is still remaining in our class. That is the complete chapter of S.T. Coleridge's book, or the chapter which is given in S.T. Coleridge, that is chapter number 14 in the book Biographia Literaria. So, dear students, in our S4, which is entitled as Introduction of Literary Criticism, so in this chapter we are going to study the criticism of S.T. Coleridge, especially in this one chapter, chapter number 14. This chapter basically deals with the nature of poem, poetry, and the poet, that we will see one by one how the critic S.T. Coleridge defines them in his own ideas or with his own creative ideas. But before that, I would like to share with you some background information of this book as well as of this chapter. First of all, S.T. Coleridge wrote this book in 1814, which is entitled as Biographia Literaria. And you see, S.T. Coleridge and William Wordsworth were very close friends, or we can say they were closest friend when Romanticism was coming into existence, or it was arising. So, see, when William Wordsworth and S.T. Coleridge decided to write the book Lyrical Ballads in 1798, so at that time both the friends decided that they will write the poems on different topics and on different themes also. So it was decided between them that S.T. Coleridge will write the poems in which supernatural elements will be there. That's why he wrote the poem the Rime of the Ancient Mariner, Christa Bell, and many such poems. I think there are 8 poems in that collection of book or collection of poems, lyrical ballads. And William Wordsworth decided to write the poems which are related to the common topics, to the worldly topics, especially the life of villagers, and the language would be very simple. Even the theme, topic, titles of the poems would be very much mundane. And S.T. Coleridge agreed to write the poem which is having the supernatural elements in them, because he followed the theory, he created the theory, uh, willing suspension of disbelief. It means we should read something which is unbelievable, but we should put aside our disbelief to that unbelievable things, and we should start believing in those things, because you see supernatural things are just like them. So William Wordsworth and S.T. Coleridge agreed on writing these two types of poems in the book Lyrical Ballads. And you see, the poems were received in the very first publication very poorly. They could not become very famous, but William Wordsworth decided to write its preface after 2 years in 1800, and he included uh, preface, and then the whole title of the book became Preface to Lyrical Ballads. So in that preface, he gave a very considerable detail of his theory, means what type of poems William Wordsworth writes, what are his theories, what are his topics, and why he chose or he chooses to write such type of poetries. So you see, both the friends were agreed, means they agreed on everything, but only on one point, and that was related to the use of language in poems. William Wordsworth supported the idea of simple language. Means he wanted to say that a poem should be written in a language as if a man is speaking to other men. Means a very common language should be used, a day-to-day language should be used. But S.T. Coleridge was against this idea. He wanted to maintain the grandeur of language in poems. That's why he has written very uh, high language or in a grand language his poems. So the friends had this contention, they had this problem, this quarrel, that the language should not be simple according to St. Coleridge. So and you see, when the preface to lyrical ballads was added into lyrical ballads, so the book became instant popular. People received the book very respectfully, and it was the talk of the town at that time. So St. Coleridge himself says that people started enjoying the poems of William Wordsworth, and his poems also, but he was received more and with high respect than him. So he thought that what is the reason behind it, and then he himself started writing the book Biographia Literaria in 1814. So here in this book, he in a very elaborate manner he explains everything, everything. So if you want to get the ideas of St. Coleridge completely, so read the book. And you see, the book is not in a literal sense a biography of literature. We ourselves don't know that why St. Coleridge has given this title to his book Biographia Literaria. First of all, the book is very much conglomeration or the combination of different items. He has not written all the chapters in organic whole. All the chapters are dealing with different things, and especially you see the book is divided into two parts. First part is from first chapter to this 14th chapter, in which he is describing different aspects of his own theory, and from the chapter number 15 to the last chapter, he deals with the different poets, different writers, and different ages of literature, English literature especially. So now we see what is given in this chapter number 14, and I think I have given you somewhat background information of this book as well as of this chapter. And you see why he started writing the book, because he had some problems with the theory of Wordsworthian theory of language. He did not like. He wanted that the language of literature or language of poetry especially should be very high, very grand. Now let's see. Now this chapter number 14 is about four things in general. First of all, he discusses differences between prose and metrical composition. Means he says that what is the difference between a prose and a poem? And I mean, so what composition of words we can call prose, and what composition of words we can call metrical composition. Then he talks about a poem, then a poet, and then poetry as a whole. So these four things have been discussed in this chapter very well, and I hope that you will not only listen all the things, but and try to understand with your own comprehensive understanding. Okay, so after this four ideas that he deals with in this chapter, and he is describing the differences between them, now we move to the next slide, and you see the first thing that he discusses or he covers in this chapter, that is a poem. According to, and you see here, uh, literature, creativity, or different types of literary works have been the point of discussion since ages, since very ancient times. Even Greek philosophers have been discussing, have been talking about them. They have been creating different ideas, different theories for poem, for literature in general, and all such things. So you see, for example, Plato says that how a poem writes a literary work, a creative work, means we can say. So you see, according to Plato, literary works are written by the poets who are under some inspiration. Inspiration means God gives them the power to write creative works. So you see, with the passing of time, these ideas changed. Even Aristotle gave different ideas. Aristotle said that means a poet is one who identifies the generals, the universals in the world, and then combines into them into one work, and that work becomes creative work to that artist, of that artist. So here you see, S.T. Coleridge is actually the founding member, founding poet of Romanticism. So uh, Plato and Romanticism have a long, long distance. Plato's period is 5th century BC, and S.T. Coleridge's period is 19th century. So you can imagine nearly 2000 years distance or difference is there. Now, see what is a poem contains the same element as prose. So he first discusses that there is a very slight or very little difference between a prose and a poem. Or nearly there is no difference. Only some artificial things are there that are responsible for their difference. And second point, only combination of elements is different. See, William Words, S.T. Coleridge says that only the combination is different. In prose, combination of word is done in a different way as it is done in the poem differently. For example, we combine words. You see, elements means words. In prose we have words. In poem we have words. So these are the elements of prose as well as poems. So how in a prose elements are combined? So you see, in prose we combine elements as per grammatical rules, but in poem we combine them as per the metrical rules, as per the metrical composition. Means we have some meter, we have some particular sound pattern. So in poems we combine words according to those meters, according to those sound patterns, and in prose we combine words according to the grammatical rules. So you see, here he says that there is no difference, and if there is a difference, so that difference is of only of combination of elements. So elements are combined in poem and prose differently, otherwise both are same. Combination is the result of different objects or aims. And you see, a prose writer combines elements because of the different aim, and the poem writer or the poet combines elements for a different object. So what are the objects, what are the aims of prose writer as well as of poem writer or the poet? So we know a prose writer's aim or object is to impart or to convey reality, truth. For example, if a scientist is writing a book of science, so it means his work is purely prose work. He will not add any meter, any sound pattern, any rhythm, any rhyming word, any poetic device into his language or into his prose work. He will only write the sentences according to the grammatical rules. Why? Because his aim, his object of writing that work is to give truth, to impart truth. In the same way, a poet has a different aim. A poem writes or combines words into a particular sound pattern, into a meter. Why? Because his aim is very much different. His aim is pleasure. He wants to provide pleasure to his reader. And that's why he uses sound pattern, he uses rhyming words, he uses rhythm, he uses a particular meter, because these things are responsible for creating or for giving pleasure to the reader. So I think now the point will be cleared why the prose writer has a different combination of elements, and the prose poem writer means a poet has a different combination of words. Similarity of medium. And you see, both prose work as well as poems have same medium. Medium means words. A prose writer also writes everything with the help of words, as a poemist or a poet writes his poem with the help of words. Words are combined differently and meters are superadded. You see, in the poem words are combined differently, and uh, additionally meters are added into the poem. And see, harmony is important, not super addition of meters. So you see, in poem only meters, addition of meters is not very much important. After adding the meters, if after creating sound patterns, after creating or after using the rhyming words, rhythms in the poem, there must be a harmony in all the parts of the poem. So if all these things are there, so that thing will be called a poem. Otherwise it will be a prose, because prose work will not have harmony, will not have rhyming words, will not have any meter. Why? Because its aim is not a pleasure, its aim is spreading of truth, its aim is transmission of truth. So poem is actually the addition of meters into work and creation harmony, or creating harmony. Now St. Coleridge himself gives the definition of a poem. You see, he says that poem, and his definition is organic, not mechanical theory. Means if you are writing a poem only by following the meters, only by using rhyming words, so it will be a very mechanical poem, it will not be a good poem according to St. Coleridge. St. Coleridge says that after using meter, after using rhyming words, rhythm in the poem must be a organic whole, it must be full of harmony. And he says that a poem as that species of composition which is opposed to the works of science, by proposing for its immediate object or aims, that is pleasure, not truth. Because you see, works of science have the aim of truth, but poem doesn't. Poem has nothing to do with truth, it has everything to do with pleasure. The delight from poetry is both from the whole poem or poem as a whole, and from each component part. So here I think the definition of poem would have been cleared, which is given by St. Coleridge. He says that a poem is a work, a composition in which we use some meters, some poetic devices, and after using them it becomes a complete whole. It is full of harmony, it is full of connectivity with all the parts, and it becomes a complete whole. So this is called a poem. And you see, in the same way he gives us a very different definition of a poetry as well as of a poet. So here I stop this part of the video, then I will continue in the second part, the definition of a poet or poetry given by St. Coleridge. Thank you very much.